The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the streaming platforms, public access channels, the Kitty Rose lifestyle, or the program underwriters.
Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Girly face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy. Love sincerity, so I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically. Through hallways and
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. I am your host, Minister Cat, aka Kitty Rose. Hey, and again, you are at The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Happy fall once again. I am so happy to be in October. I love October because it's sweater weather and blazer weather, so I enjoy this. Even though today kind of was one of those Indian summer type of days, but we're not complaining because we just came off of that horrific rain for 4 or 5 days that we had straight. I'm telling you, us New Yorkers, we are spoiled. Yes, we are. So let's get right into this week's topic of the week. Drum roll. I have to get a drum roll. Drum roll, please. This week's topic of the week. You guys ready? I know you feel like I've discussed this before because when I told D what I was talking about today, he was like, didn't he talk about this? I guess I talk about it a lot because this is the next chapter. But today, or this week's topic of the week is life as an empty nester. Life as an empty nester. I've been now an empty nester going on, this is my 3rd year. So, woof, what is that like? Or how has it been? Or what is it like? What am I going through? How am I dealing with it? I was the stage production manager for an event this weekend that just passed in Harlem, and I happened to bump into a fellow mom who has the same amount of children that I have, and her youngest is also her baby girl, and these two young ladies they are friends of each other's. Now she comes from a 2-parent household, so she lived with both of her parents in the same household growing up. So these 2 parents have 3 children, just like I do, 2 boys and a girl, and her youngest one is her daughter, who's 20, like my daughter. I said to her at the bar, so how you doing? And she just now became like a full empty nester because her daughter officially now has moved into her own space in Florida. And she was like, with a straight grill, I don't like it. I'm not happy. The house is too quiet. I don't know what to do. Literally, it was not even sadness. It was anger, almost like, how dare my daughter decide to become independent and live on her own at 20 years old. So, I said there is a need to bring this topic back up because I don't know if I really have had a full discussion on what life is like as an empty nester. I know I've talked about it, I've hinted towards it, and I've done a TED Talk, but literally where we've discussed it on the next chapter, I'm not sure. So when I went to good old Google, they suggested that empty nesters, yes, stay positive. Stay positive, right? I know that sounds so broad. If your last child will soon leave home, plan ahead to keep empty nest syndrome at bay. Look for new opportunities in your personal and professional life. Keeping busy or taking on new challenges at work or home can ease this sense of loss. There are some excellent resources out here that can help guide or help us adjust to being an empty nester or living in an empty nest. But once the initial period of grief and adjustment is over, the question remains, what does it mean to find your purpose in this emptiness? I had to ask myself that question. I'm still asking myself that question. So let's go to the first video that I was able to research for you guys. If you want to look at it some more, because we're not going to play the whole video, it's Thriving in the Emptiness Years by Jim Burns. And I'm just going to take a snippet out just to kind of introduce us to this topic, and then when we come back from that, we'll discuss it. Okay, let's go to the next video. Let's go to our first video of the evening.
The empty nest syndrome. It's actually not a psychological syndrome. It's a phenomenon that takes place when kids leave the home. And all of a sudden, we found that there were millions of kids who were leaving the home, and the empty nest syndrome was that parents didn't know what to do. They had to reinvent their life. And so in the empty nest syndrome, we started finding that parents experienced loss, they experienced grief, they couldn't reinvent their life. And so there's answers for that. But the truth is that a lot of people are not even aware that they're experiencing the empty nest syndrome because, we've never heard of it before. So I have a little test that people can take. And a lot of times they say, wow, I flunked the test. I actually think Kathy and I would have flunked the test, okay, because we weren't preparing for the empty nest. And in doing that, sometimes you bury things under the mat if you're married. Sometimes as a single empty nester, you have a huge loss. You've lost your soulmate, so to speak, but it's not your spouse, it's your kids. And then also you have to deal sometimes with that fact that, there was a divorce or there was a death. And so there's all kinds of issues within it. And once you know you're experiencing empty nest syndrome, and people experience it in different ways, well, then you can do something about it. I know I experienced the empty nest different than my wife. She was the sun, and my kids were the planets. I think I was a planet too, going around the sun. And all of a sudden she lost her job description because everybody was gone except for me. And so she felt some real, deep, almost depression at times. And she had to reinvent what she was going to do with life. For me, I just worked harder in the morning. I'd go to work earlier. I'd go to work later. And so I didn't think I was experiencing it. And then when I looked back, I went, wow, I'm burying some of this pain in just working harder instead of really facing it.
Burying pain rather than really facing it. I know that was definitely something that happened with me because I just felt like I needed to work more. And I did prepare myself. The funny thing, or funny, ironic thing, is that as I was becoming an empty nester is when COVID kind of hit. So now let's go back a little bit. Let's actually do some research within my own life in this journey as I prepared to be an empty nester. 2020, COVID hits. I take my daughter down south to South Carolina. This is also the beginning next year of her senior year. So September comes, we start her senior year. Now that's 2021 is when she's now getting ready to graduate and go to college. So 2021, she graduates. 2021, she goes away to college. So now we have 2021, 2022, 2023. Like I said, I'm coming into my third year. But that senior year, I realized that as I was preparing for her to graduate high school, we forget that we're preparing for two monumental things to happen: graduation and then preparing them to take them to college. So I had already kind of like mentally started to prepare myself of how I was going to feel, because emotionally, I didn't even have a choice. I was also, in my head, premenopausing. So I was already very emotional at the sight of any child from a small to a teenager. I was just this emotional wreck for like a year as my daughter was getting ready to graduate. But I still mentally I had to psych myself out to prepare myself, because I didn't know that I was going to experience grief or loss, but I knew that I was going to experience a shift. Because what I do realize is, like the video said, the job description of my life almost became parenting. Like, when I first became a parent at 2021, I was just at the beginning part of my professional career. And that shifted for me because now I had to get into parent mode. And then soon after, I became a parent to a third. I became a parent to I became a parent to a second. I became a parent to a third. So that regiment that I put myself in with the first one, I kind of kept throughout the parenting with the other 2, 3 in total. So when I became an empty nester, what was shocking to me is that I didn't know who I was. I realized in therapy that I didn't even have hobbies. So this reinventing oneself was really seriously new for me because literally I have been a parent full-time for 25 years that now the emptiness in the house, 1, was nerve-wracking, but 2 was disturbing because I didn't know now what to do for Kat. Oof. On that note, let's take a break.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
But you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a course online.
You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
So that was disturbing. To be at a place where I didn't know who Kat was. To be at a place where I didn't have any hobbies. Well, at least didn't have any hobbies that I could think of. You know, my therapist said, well, what do you like to do? And I couldn't think of anything. And to be honest with you, 2 years later, I'm still in that same kind of place. So that's why I definitely understand and respect how Jim Burns mentions how it's important to prepare because you can almost find yourself in a depressed state. And I wasn't depressed, but I did find my place. I did find me in a place of sadness. But I found myself in a place of sadness because I felt disappointed. I felt disappointed in myself that how did I not know who I was? How did I allow the last 25 years of my life to be so consumed with 3 other people that I didn't take the time to know and get to know myself? But then the flip side of that was I was so angry when I became a young mother at 21. But now, when I turned 47 and I was preparing to be this empty nester, still such a somewhat fairly young woman, I get to now have like all the things that I wanted to do or all the things that I thought I wanted to do when I was younger. Now I have the position to be in a place that's so much better to receive those endeavors. You know, I don't know. No, I kind of do know. I don't believe that the things I know now would have been appreciated the same way in my 20s as I'm able to appreciate them now in my 40s, going into my 50s. So I think that, you know, the appreciation that comes with this time, that comes with you focusing on being a parent, you're learning not just how to be a parent, but you're learning how to help these young people or these children become productive adults. But in teaching them to become productive adults, you're also becoming this productive adult because you're leading by example. Because how much do we all know in our 20s? So as young parents, yes, we're in this parental phase, but we're still new as adults. So we have to now take on this role of being responsible by leading by example, that the things that we learn in our parenting, we also get to help in our own development of who we are becoming as productive adults. Does that make sense? That was a mouthful. Does that make sense? The things I appreciate now about my life at 49, I'm almost sure I wouldn't have appreciated at 23. However, though, what I have learned, the fact that I'm able to instill those things within my children, I think that they have an appreciation at 20, at 25, at 28 that I did not have and would not have been able to have because I didn't have the same parental structure that they had. Does that make sense? As we evolve as parents, we get to be different kind of parents than the parents we had. So since we get to be these different kind of parents where we communicate a little bit more than the parents before us, our children get to appreciate things in their 20s that we necessarily didn't appreciate that now we can appreciate in our 40s. But outside of what we've been able to appreciate and what we've been able to teach our children, now it's kind of, twofold. We get to benefit from what we've learned, and they get to benefit by learning these things based off of how we're learning as we're going through the process. Did you catch that? Did that make sense? We get to learn and appreciate now as we go through this process of what we've learned, but as we were learning, we got to taught our children as they were learning so that they get an appreciation now in their 20s that we couldn't have gotten at our 20s. Not that our parents didn't love us, but the tools that we have, our parents didn't. So that learning is now happening at the same time. I've said it twice. Does it make sense to you yet? I hope it does. Let's go to our second video. Now, our second video, we're going to break up into 3 parts because I thought that the video as a whole was very interesting, but I kind of wanted to share my opinion in between these 2 women because I thought they were funny as So this video is from the Bitches in the Kitchen. Expert tips on empty nest from middle-aged moms that tell the real truth. Let's take a look at this video, break it up, and we'll come back and discuss it.
Have you heard from your daughter in a while?
I haven't, actually.
I know. I haven't either. What is our responsibility in that?
Well, I don't want to bother her because I know she's really busy and she's just getting used to this. I mean, she's only 2 weeks in. This is. Oh, look!
Lucky you.
Look!
Oh, that's such a. Oh, hi, beautiful.
Hi. We're filming today. That's so weird that you would call right now when we're filming.
That is weird.
Say hi. Say hi to all my friends. There we go.
Are you showered? Is that wet hair?
No, this is completely dry.
Completely dry. Lots of
such
product.
a lie. That's a lie.
That's a good look for you.
I do shower, you know.
She did text me last night. She texted me a picture of a bowl of top ramen and a bottle of beer. She's like full college student.
I'm kind of jealous because you got a text. I got shit. Whose responsibility is it to keep communications going when you guys move away? Yours or ours?
Or both.
Both. Both. Okay. So when we call you, are we bothering you?
No. I mean, it depends, though, on our schedules.
Okay. So we have our responsibility is to know your schedule and then fit in.
It's our responsibility to communicate our schedule with you so that you know what our schedules are like so that you can then accommodate to our schedules.
Okay, I can live with that.
I like that. And I have to say that that is a tool that has worked with me and my family. So I feel bad to all the parents out there who don't get the phone calls, because I tell you, it is not a good feeling. But I had to even train and prepare my children for that early on. Like, I knew eventually everybody would be leaving the house. So I started as early as like freshmen in high school with all of them, just kind of doing that call to get them in the mental state of regularly calling me, so that when they were out of the house, it was almost like an innate responsibility that, oh, I got to call my mom. Oh, I got to check in with my mom. So I started that way back. I don't know if you guys caught last week's show when we was talking about parenting adult children, because I'm going to tell you, that guilt trip thing, I definitely have done. Did you call your mother today? I could have died and fallen in the shower. So I have prepared my children to get in that mindset of calling. But I like how the young girl said that it's both of our responsibilities to know the schedules, my schedule, your schedule, so that we can communicate with each other when we both have the time. So with all of my children, I know that first thing early morning is always a good time to talk to my young men. I was going to call them my boys. I know that my daughter has an intense schedule with her full-time workload and school load, so I know there are certain times, like in her commute to work, is when we'll kind of conversate, or her commute coming home from work will communicate. So we find our moments in between the schedules of both of our days of figuring out when it's a good time to do that check-in and call one another, and not necessarily have long conversations, but have enough conversations where it's the check-in and the touch base. Ironically, my daughter has suggested or requested that I call her more often than I was. So I know my boys will probably agree on that. But knowing that they actually want to hear from me was also a good feeling. Before we go back and dissect that video some more, let's take another break.
Being prepared is a part of who you are. But it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
So we all have had those girlfriends that, you know, we get the one kid that calls and then they're looking at the phone like, well, where's my kid? Let's go back to the bitches in the kitchen and see what else they had to talk about.
I remember the very first time. It can be a little overwhelming.
Well, let's face it, they were so a part of our lives. We knew, like, it was, what's for dinner, Mom? And can I borrow the car? Or I'm going to take the car and I'll be back later. And now we have no idea what they're doing. Now you're a long distance mom.
Which is weird when you're used to being a full-time mom.
And you're a selective mom now, because they can not share everything with us. So now now we're filtered mom.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. When I heard that, I wanted to scream, because I was like, oh my God, that's so true. I have now become the long distance mom, even with my child who lives in the city because he doesn't live with me. So even with Eric, I'm still a long distance mom. It's so weird because we're in October. Eric, my middle son, who's 25, went away 2 months ago. And I still haven't even had dinner with him to talk about his trip that he went to over the summer, just because our schedules have been so crazy. But what I also found interesting was the selective mom, the filtered mom, because being in control, really, like I talked about last week, was the issue that we have parenting adult children, because we've been in so control, handling the day-to-day needs of our children for so long, since the beginning, that now them having to decide what they want to share with us is interesting. Like, my daughter is only 3.5 hours away from me, but she doesn't check in when she's coming home from the club. She doesn't let me know when her and her girlfriends are going out. Her and her boyfriend, I told you guys last week, they just went on vacation, and I didn't get asked permission. You know what I'm saying? She didn't. I mean, of course, she called me when they was at the airport, and she called me when they landed. But I mean, I didn't have any say so in when they were going, how long they were going for, if they was staying in separate rooms. Like, I had no say so. So I think that that's probably definitely one of the biggest struggles that we go through as empty nesters, is now being this filtered parent, this selective parent, where they get to decide what they want to share with us. I got one more part of this video I want to share. Let's go to it again, and then we'll break that down.
How long do you wait before you say, hey, come clean up your shit or else it's gone?
Christmas. If it ain't done by Christmas, it's out of here.
Wow, I'm not waiting that long. Is it important that you save the room for when they come back? I just thought of that.
I think it should become a guest room because they're gone.
You know, I walked into this conversation feeling really positive, and now I'm really sad.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say.
And Elisa hasn't called. Poor thing.
Like, I never hear from her.
So I have to say, my daughter still has her room in my home. I literally will leave her door open so that I can still even feel like she's home. I think Baki's laughing at me right now. Like, I would just walk her by her room, you know, and feel like, oh, she's home. I will make up her bed. I will keep everything the same. And the crazy thing is, you know, she does still come home because she comes home for breaks. But I refuse to make that room into a guest room, even though it is a guest room. I just had some out-of-town guests, and they stayed in her room because her room actually feels very comfy, very, you know, very warm, you know, very nice. And then, you know, we have the boys' room as the guest room, you know, because it's the biggest room in the house, and that has the guest room bathroom. But it's so funny. When I saw that part of the video, I just chuckled because I definitely did not change my daughter's room. And even though my daughter, you know, does now have her own apartment in Philly, you know, she's still on the lease, just like the boys are. They're still on the lease at my apartment. And at any time, they can come home. They still all have the keys. So even though my middle son lives in Harlem and my oldest son lives in South Carolina, I wanted them to have the set of keys so that they can come home whenever they want. I can come home and EJ can be on the couch, or he can be in his sister's room and know that he's home. I wanted them to still have that feeling. I wasn't ready completely to just take all of their things out. Because to be honest with you, as independent as they are, you know, and as much as my daughter is currently preparing to live on her own when she graduates, don't tell anyone. Just between you and I. Wait, where's that other camera? Just between you and I, I'm hoping she'll come back home. Don't tell anybody. And the funny thing is, I don't even know if I really want them to come back home, because I'm going to tell you, now that I'm coming and going on this 3 years, I crave for them to come home. And then every time somebody's home, 2 days afterwards, I'm ready for them to leave. Like, either there's clothes on the floor or there's a dish in the sink, and that just annoys me that I'm like, okay, when are you going home? So I don't know if I'm really wanting my daughter to come home as much as I say I want her to come home. And then once she comes home, she's going to be coming home as an adult. That means no curfew. I don't know if I could take that. So as much as I miss having them home, I don't know if I would be comfortable living with my adult children. Wow. So I think that's what we have to also think about, parents. Like, as much as we want them to come home, once we kind of actually begin to live without them, when they come home, we're actually ready for them to leave. I guarantee you that happens. I guarantee you it happens. But while they're gone, that craving does not go away. And not only does the craving not go away, the sad thing about really what I miss the most about having my children at home is now all of the chores are depending on me. I'm the only one who washes dishes now. I'm the only one who cleans the bathroom. I'm the only one who does laundry. And even though it's only me, I find myself very annoyed that I'm the only one who has to do the chores. So sometimes the laundry don't get done but once a month now. So I miss having servants, but that's not nice to say. But yeah, so what does it look like now when you start to actually live in that empty nester life? We'll discuss that when we come back from break. Here we go.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches? Ready? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
I really wish I had more conversations with my daughter about vaping. That's why I play this commercial or PSA every week, because unfortunately at 20 years old, now that my daughter is a victim of vaping, and it disgusts me. I really wish that she smoked cannabis over doing vaping, but hey, you can't choose what your children get into, which I guess is the other component to life as an empty nester, because now, you know, their life decisions are theirs, and you can't really say too much. Like, you can have your opinion and you can tell them what you think, but ultimately they're gonna do what they want, which is what they were doing anyway when they were living in your house. They just hid it better, or or did it where, you know, you didn't know and you thought you knew, because a lot of times, you know, obviously we as parents and fully involved parents think that we know everything that goes on in the house, that we know everything that our children are doing because we have them on a schedule. We know what time they should be here. We know what time they should be there. We know what time they get out of this program. But however, there's so many things that we don't know that happens while we're so-called parenting our young adults or our teenage children. You know, I was a very involved parent. And years later, you know, now when everybody's comfortable to have discussions, now I find out that my daughter at 15 did this, and my son at 14 did this, or my sons did this to my daughter at 10 years old. Like, all these stories, you're like, wait a minute, what now? Where was I? Wasn't I home? So as much as we're involved as parents who in the house with our children, there are things that still go on that we have no clue that goes on. So now that we're aware that we don't have a say-so, again, that is what becomes one of the challenges of being an empty nester. So I showed you how we feel, what we go through, what we potentially could go through, what we should do to kind of prepare for that if we can. But I think that's all kind of broad and vain, right? Because I kind of just still gave you surface suggestions because of what I am wanting to ease you into as we're having this conversation. So the last video that I was able to get kind of gives us a little bit more tips that we can use. So if we go further into the video, it's expert tips on dealing with the empty nest syndrome, because this actually is a real thing. This is not just, you know, something that we're pulling out of the sky and now making an excuse to feel sad or depressed or empty or lost. This is actually something that both fathers and mothers go through. They may go through it differently. Women may go through it differently than men. Doesn't mean that men don't feel a kind of way when their children are also out of the house. Women go through it differently because their roles or responsibilities with the caregiving is different from a father. So the pain and the loss is just as equal. It's not one over the other because we might perform differently. The father might work more, or the father might not work more but be quiet because there's not as much instruction as going on. So now this gives time for these adult parents to actually get to know one another. So as we're getting to know ourselves, because I'm telling you, I'm in this place of, well, who is Kat? I'm not with my husband, my husband. I'm not in the same household with my partner. So that means that I'm in my house by myself. That means I'm in my house when it's quiet, just me alone. So what tips am I able to use for myself that I'm able to share with you? Let's take a look at our last video and then we'll come back and discuss it.
It is, and it represents so many different feelings, and there's so many sides that come out. And what I like to remind people, I don't think there are any negative emotions.
Okay.
I think it's important to, it's like saying there's a negative color of the rainbow. It's important to have all your emotions weave together. So there's going to be grieving, there's going to be excitement, there's going to be hope, there's going to be fear. And it's important to make room for all of that.
But I would imagine, you know, as a parent, mine are still just 10 and 12, so I got a ways to go. But, you know, your child's so excited to be going off to college, and they're so excited, but inside you're so sad, but you want to be excited for them.
You do, and I'm so glad you said that, because one of the most important things is not to put your anxiety onto your kid.
Okay.
That child's going out as a young adult for the first time, and they do not need to manage your feelings. But you can. You can manage your feelings. And take that time to grieve and feel that, oh my God, it goes, you say they're 12, it goes so fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also it's a chance to repurpose yourself. It's either you've had this be your complete focus, or you may be grieving that you didn't have time to spend with your kid at all because you've been busy. But this is really a great time to repurpose yourself. And it's funny that they say empty nest, because quite often there's a partner in that nest with you. And it's a really good chance to reconnect and make each other a priority again. And so it's not an empty nest always, but it feels like it.
Yeah. No, I have a friend, I'm not going to mention her name so I shouldn't get in trouble, but when her son went off to college, she told me that she drove to the beach and sat there and just sobbed. Yeah, what are some of the other symptoms that parents go through?
Oh gosh, well, first of all, there's denial. There's anger, there's frustration, there's you want to know that they're prepared, you want to see them being prepared. You know, one of the things I hear a lot is, he can't get up without me waking him. How is he going to make it to school on time? But they do, or they don't, and they figure it out. And there's also excitement and hope, and you get to watch them grow. I actually got the opportunity to drive my nephew just yesterday away from his house to go away to college. And he was saying, I feel so grateful because my parents did such a good job with me as parents, but like, wow, it's so weird to leave the house and to watch them like, you know, standing on the curb. But explore and find yourselves.
What can parents do to get through this, would you say?
You know, talk with your friends, talk with family, share with other people in the community, therapy. And again, I think exploration, repurposing yourself, and looking at what you have done instead of what you haven't. and really taking that time. I love that your friend went to the beach and just cried, because when we stuff that down, you know,
That's never good.
Yeah, there's cake involved.
She said there's cake involved. That's some white people stuff. Anyway, wow, okay. I wrote a bunch of notes. Okay. Whew, where do we start? So one, don't put your anxiety and stress onto them. Yes, because they're excited. So we don't want to bust their bubble by having them worry about us worrying about them. Keep that to ourselves, or share it with our component at home, like our husband or boyfriend or husband or wife. Don't put that anxiety on them. Repurpose yourself. We're going to come back to that one. Grieving the time that you thought you lost. Woo. So the anchor was talking about, you know, her kids are 12, so she has some time. That's what we think. 20, 25, and 28. Wait, what now? 20, 25, and 28. Wait, what now? Where did the time go? How do I have grown people? But I do. So I know I've thought to myself, I had to grieve, did I do enough? Did I teach them enough? Did I give them enough guide in their life to protect them, to cover them in their decision makings? I know I didn't want to bombard them with church, but did I teach them enough scripture? Did I teach them how to be good people? Did I teach them how to, you know, get up on time and be responsible for work? Did I teach them how to, you know, get on, be responsible for, you know, going to work, going to class on time, doing your laundry, you know, maintaining your house? And I have to say, Isaiah checked me a few years ago when he was 18 years old. Isaiah, my oldest son, who's now 28, he said, "Ma, trust what you have taught us." Last week when I talked about parenting adult children, I shared with you guys that during COVID, I went down south. During COVID, I went down south, and I had to go down south to my adult son's home that he shares with his partner, and I had to go as a guest. Not as his mother who could say, put this there, do this, what time. I had to go as a guest, and it was impressive to see my son be a man, be a partner, be responsible for his own household. So knowing, again, that the things that I taught actually did resonate, actually did work. And I now watch it with my daughter, who's responsible for her day-to-day life and all the things that she wants included in that, like all of her extra perks. She maintains that lifestyle. She doesn't, you know, complain that she can't get her hair done or get her nails done or get her lashes done. Guess what? She makes those things happen for herself. And that is based on the tools and the foundation that I gave them, or that their father and I gave them as we were preparing them to be young adults. So now, what's so weird and funny is that now that parenting part of the foundation, because that's all that's done, that part of the parenting. Now we're parenting adults. But that foundation, since that part is now done, when they said that it's time to repurpose yourself, they are really right about that, because that denial, that anger, that frustration really only comes from us not having or not knowing what to do with our time. Filling in our fingers like, okay, what to do? And that's where the denial, frustration, and anger comes from. Let's take another break.
Kids!
I don't want to talk about it.
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 Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency.
Kids, you all right?
This family's prepared. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan. Go to nyc.gov/readyny or call 311 for more information.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
So, wrapping up, pointers that were suggested, just in case I did more complaining about being an empty nester than actually giving you guys some tools and some suggestions. Get to know yourself again. When I became a parent, I was 21 years old. I didn't probably know myself then. So now in my 40s, getting ready to go into 50, learning who Kat is, taking the time to figure out what you like. Hey, Kat, how you doing? What do you like? You know, find your passion or passions. You know, join a community organization, do some volunteering, reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, figure out how to now not only date yourself, but date your significant other again, you know. Creating even now adult dating with your children. You know, the time that you want to still spend with them, even if they don't live in the same city with you, you still want to make those times. So like tomorrow night, you know, I'm going over my middle son's house to make dinner at his house with him and his friend. And the next weekend, I'm going to my daughter's apartment and we have dinner scheduled. So making time to still not only date yourself, date your partner, but date your children as they are now adults outside of the household. Separate your worth from your work. Instead of diving into work like some of us, I've done, learn how to, in that getting to know process, like who Kat is, like who that empty nester is now. I don't want to say becoming or now is. And then preserve. Preserve. Most things are more difficult and time-consuming than they look. If you want to find your purpose in the empty nest, it will probably mean sticking with something longer than you initially think. Preserve and stick with it. And seek out people who will cheer you on and encourage you in your pursuit. So that takes us right into Jesus moment. Oh, Jesus moment, because that was my light bulb moment. Jesus moment that gave me the Holy Spirit, God, to share with you guys the scriptural text from Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1. Don't get mad, but it says, there is a season, a time appointed for everything, and a time for every delight and event or purpose under heaven. What I feel like that scripture is helping us to see is that enjoy the moment that we are in right now. Don't reject it, because for everything, there is a season, an appointed time. So the season of parenting, was that from birth to 18, 19, 20, whenever they left the house? And now it's time for this place of it's all about me. Delight in every event or purpose. So yes, embrace that sadness, but now I'm getting the opportunity to delight, because this opportunity is still an opportunity for this next chapter in my life for me to still be an adult parent to adult children, but now I get to love on Kat. Learn cat. Think about cat. Make cat the priority. Woo! In Jesus' name, amen, hallelujah. On that note, let's take our last break. Well, not our last break, but our last break before our last break. And we'll be right back.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to our new segment, Did You Know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? This week's Did You Know topic is travel prep tips. Travel tips that my dear neighbor Sharon Edwards gave me, because this sister right here, she is not an elder. She is a little over 60, and I'm going to tell you, the last 10, 15 years, this sister, literally, we got 12 months in a year. I believe she goes away at least 9 or 8 times a year, whether it's weekend excursions, whether it's 2 weeks at a time, whether it's a week, whether it's in the United States, whether it's outside the United States. She has done it all. So she has shared with us some of her travel tips that has worked well for her, that she's learned and that she continues to learn, and now in her next chapter is sharing with us. So, did you know we have 9 tips today? The first one, come on now. Did you know that you can take frozen water through the TSA at the airports? I didn't know that, because they always say you can't bring liquids. But the rule is, as long as the water is frozen solid, it can pass through security. Number 2, turn your travel neck pillow around. Turn your travel neck pillow around. Most of us wear it the wrong way. The opening actually should be in the back to support your neck and chin. People are hurting themselves because they are using their pillow the wrong way. It makes such a big difference when you use it the right way. Tip number 3, use a credit card when booking your flight. Use a credit card when booking your flight that is connected to an airline that you travel with frequently, so that you can earn points towards free flights. So use a credit card when booking your flight with the airline that you travel the most. I know I have friends that love Southwestern. I like Delta and JetBlue. So if I travel a lot on JetBlue, so if I use them all the time, when using my credit card, I can get free points towards free, wink, wink, free flights. For example, if you fly with JetBlue, apply for a JetBlue credit card. Use this card to book your flight. With most cards, you earn 3 times in points the price of your flight. So example, book a $200 flight, you earn 600 points. Come on now. Number 4, turn in off-peak season, travel in off-peak season to get the best value. Travel in the off-peak season to get the best value. So if you can, instead of traveling in peak months like June, July, and August, try traveling late September through March, excluding December. The weather is still good, and there will be less of a crowd. Travel when kids are in school. These are typically the months that you can receive the best value and least amount of people, the least crowds. Number 5, research the country you plan on visiting. Now, before I tell you about researching the country, not only do you want to research, but every country don't even take the same charger adapter with your phone. When I went to Africa, they had a completely different outlet that I had no idea that they even made or created. So when you research the country, you got to research all types of things about that country, even what type of socket that they're using. So it is your responsibility to know what the weather, the climate will be during your visit. This will help with packing our clothes. If you're traveling internationally, research what vaccines and shots are required. Also, what visas are required. What currency does the country use? You might need to buy some currency before you leave for vacation. I noticed that every time I've gone international, the people like the cash from the United States. But it still made sense to try what they call transfer my money over to what the currency was. Number 6, book your flight typically 6 weeks before you travel for the best price. Book your flight typically 6 weeks before you travel for the best price. The best time to book is late Monday, Tuesday night. Never book a flight on the weekend, always more expensive. So Monday late to Tuesday night. 7, 8, 9. I'm going to give it to you. Ready? I'm about to throw up on you. Do you know if you rent a car while on vacation, you do not have to buy the insurance? Because your car rental company says that they say that you have to buy it, but you can use your own insurance if the trip is personal. So your personal deductibles will apply if you have an accident. So use your insurance, not the car insurance. Number 9. Keep your shoes on and invest in the TSA pre-check. It's worth it. For about $80, the TSA is good for 5 years. Wave goodbye to long lines. And the last one, take early flights if possible. They are less likely to be canceled. Take early flights if possible. They are less likely to be canceled. Wow. That was good. That was a mouthful. Thank you, Sharon. We appreciate those travel tips. So, guys, that's the end of another episode of The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. We don't have enough time for an inbox question this week, but you know what it's time to do. It's time to like, follow, and share. Like, follow, and share because we are here for you. So go to my Instagram, go to my YouTube, visit us every Saturday here at BronxNet at 11 o'clock p.m., where we come to you weekly, sharing the things that I'm learning about my next chapter and these next chapters that we are all going through, because the next chapter is where we discuss shades of gray. I am your host, Minister Kat, a.k.a. Kitty Rose, and I will see you guys next week. Mwah! Please be safe out there.
Dark days I carry, sharp pains and bellies. All days be heavy when you're programmed to survive. Legendary ciphers got the MCs in the jars. The city never sleeps, slept from 1 to 5. When COVID hit the block and we had to stay inside. Tough love is all I know, so be gentle with my soul. Learn to navigate winters with no coat. If you never been cold, you never been broke. Hustle 24/7 just to stay afloat. So New York, like dollar pizza in the cold world shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is